Hang on. I had myself muted, so we were just talking to nobody there. Welcome to the podcast, everyone. This is the live recording of our podcast. We thank you for joining us. Feel free to participate in the chat. While we're doing the podcast, we won't acknowledge the chat for posterity's sake, but we will look at it at the end and discuss anything that we think is relevant. So we'll see you at the end. Enjoy. Hello and welcome to the Nerdosphere. I'm one of your hosts, Clayton, joined as always by my brother, the biggest palate this side of the Mississippi, Corbin.
Hey, how's it going? I really appreciate you. Did you know that? Thank you for such a badass nickname and Stinky Stash, like that moron sitting next to me on the computer screen.
Well, it's funny you say that because you smell that? Do you smell that, Corbin? It smells like a baka. Aaron Yeager. It's Titan Tim. That's
Titan
right.
Tim.
I brought it back just to make him feel good because I made fun of his stash for 2 weeks straight.
Oh, my heart. I thought you hated me again, but it seems like I'm back in the inner circle of love. How's it going, boys?
Pretty good.
It's going great, Titan Tim. The Wunderschlag.
There it is. There it is.
The Wunderschlag.
The Wunderschlag.
The Wunderschlag.
I saw the worst meme today, and it said, if hot dog is pureed meat, put in animal intestine lining, then it never stops becoming a hot dog. Because when you eat it, it's still a hot dog, and then you poop it out. So as you eat it, it's still a hot dog. It's never like digested hot dog. It's still a hot dog.
What? How did we start on the poop tangent already? We've been recording for 47 seconds and we're talking about poop again. Is this our thing? Are we back there again?
We're back there again.
Let me tell you, there are these two guys, and it's to the point now where I've opened up to a few coworkers, and they too have noticed whether there is a majority of VU employees who do this, or it's just two men that we just all keep encountering. There is at least, though, two men that work in my building that when they go to drop a deuce, they have no etiquette whatsoever. They go in, and as my buddy Caleb says, play the sphincter flute with no regard to who's around, but they just continuously hawk up these like viscous, thick Southern loogies from like the bottom of their lung. And I just don't understand. I've never been in a position when I'm deucing where I'm like, I need to really hack something up and then spit it and hope it doesn't hit my pee-pee in the space between the bowl and where I'm aiming. Because there's definitely going to be some splatter damage.
Unless you have an innie. He might not be a shower or a grower. You know, there's guys like that out there.
Both these guys, they're the percent of men.
It could be.
They probably back into their parking spaces.
Also, so we need to have this conversation on Nerd Tea. I'm going to tease it right here for people who are listening who have never heard of Nerd Tea.
Office etiquette.
We have a second podcast that we do exclusively for our patrons. You can listen to it for as little as $1 a month. And we just talk about life and fun shit and funny shit. And I am so confused by you, Corbin, because when it comes to bathroom etiquette, you are top notch. You're a connoisseur of bathroom etiquette. You have a high level of bathroom etiquette.
I think I TM'd the courtesy flush.
I think you did. You when it comes to bathroom etiquette, there's nobody who I would look to for advice before you. But your kitchen etiquette that we started talking about like how many microwaves can one person use? Are you allowed to heat up leftover fish? You have no kitchen etiquette. It's such a weird divide because it seems like in the kitchen, almost anything goes for you.
Let me ask you this, Tim. Are you American?
Of course I'm American.
You love your freedoms?
Of course I love my freedoms.
How dare you put tariffs on someone's food and what they can and cannot heat up in the microwave?
You're so worried about like flushing as soon as the poop hits the water to respect everybody's nostrils in the bathroom. But fuck it, you can heat up broccoli and 2-day-old salmon and stink up the entire place. That's perfectly okay. We are going to be continued on Nerd
If
Tea.
your poop smells like heated up broccoli and salmon, you probably don't need a courtesy flush. That sounds like a good time. I might be crawling underneath that stall to join you, my friend.
Oh god! Oh my god! Oh god!
It's like that meme that we shared on the Nerdosphere, where it's like somebody, or no, it was a TikTok. Somebody's just having a hell of a time in the bathroom, and a hand comes under the stall, and it's got one of those like Hershey miniature candy bars, like handing it to the guy in the stall next to him while he's pooping. That's you right now.
Well, in other news, I'm super frustrated with Pokemon Go. And let me tell you why.
Do it.
I took a long break in between when it first came out and now. There was a couple times where I played it for a hot minute. But I've been working on and off for 5 years to get 400 candies for a Magikarp to evolve it into a Gyarados. I accomplished this last week, and I evolved my Magikarp into a very strong Gyarados, nearly perfect on stats.
Okay.
I have been sitting on two different quests that require me to catch a Ditto for 4 years, because the two Ditto that I caught before the quests even were in a game, and I've never caught one since. I caught one today after work.
Okay.
Hooray! I can now move on in 2 quests. Lo and behold, one of the quest's next step, evolve a Magikarp.
Ooh. I mean, we've all been there, Clayton. We've all been there.
Evolve
I did a
Magikarp.
I did the same thing. I evolved a Magikarp when I could, and every Pokemon Go player had evolved their Magikarp before that quest step. You are not alone. You're just late to the party.
I
friend.
know, but I feel like I need to vent. And for those of you who aren't familiar, you get candies by catching Pokemon, and there are hundreds of Pokemon in Pokemon Go now. Hundreds. So finding a Magikarp, it does happen, but it's like maybe I'll catch 1 or 2 a week. You get 3 candies for catching one.
Do you use a peanut berry every time?
If I have one, I do. And so you'll get 6.
How do you not have some?
Because I use them.
You should only use them on mons that you need to use them on.
Calm down. There are other mons that I need to use them on, okay?
Okay.
Like my Swampert, who's perfect and awesome.
Okay.
So anyways, another alternate way to get candy is you make a Pokemon your buddy and they walk with you while you walk in the world. It tracks your steps. For a Magikarp, every kilometer you get a candy. But I need 400 candies to get a Gyarados. And I did the math today. That's 248 miles.
How many miles do you walk a day right now?
Not nearly enough.
That's 700 days.
My point is, it's going to take forever.
See, Corbin's on the opposite. He's on the opposite wavelength. He poops 8 times a day, which means he has at least 3 miles of walking just to and from the bathroom.
From the bathroom, yeah.
No comment.
So,
no comment.
I did beat.
Yeah, I get my steps
today.
in. My watch every day is like, good job. You did your movement for the day.
Good job. You pooped again.
Good job.
The one thing that annoys me though is I don't know if it's just because like my resting heart rate is just a certain way, but when I'm at work, I use my standing desk the entire shift, and there's so many times where my watch is like, "You need to stand up." I'm like, "Bitch, I am standing. How about you get off my back?" I'm standing.
That's because it uses your steps, I think, not necessarily your heart rate, to know that you're moving. So if you're just kind of standing and barely moving, it won't register. Like you actually have to, like for me, sometimes to get it to register that I stood up, I have to get up and like walk around, take a lap around my storage facility, like inside, like walk around and then come back and it's like, good job, you stood up.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very good.
So anyways,
nice.
For those who didn't know, this is the Nerdosphere. We're a podcast that discusses everything from the big screen to the small screen and anything in between, whether it be shows, movies, video games, books, or even music. If you can nerd out about it, we'll talk about it. And tonight, we're going to be talking about Spider-Man No Way Home. The trailer has finally dropped. We were all wondering if it would even drop ever at this point, but it did. And the internet is ablaze with hype and speculation. So we're going to talk about that too. And we got other Marvel news and things to talk about too. So.
Hell yeah, we do, boy.
Do we want to start with that stuff? Do we want to start with the hot stuff about how Eternals might be delayed?
Yeah, I might as well get the bad stuff out of the way now.
Since that kind of connects with what we talked about last week and even the week before.
Yeah, might as well.
Yeah. I don't know if you guys saw this. I just saw it. We're talking about movies that have been delayed. Venom 2, Let There Be Carnage, has been delayed again.
Oh, again.
They announced it this morning. It's now coming out in January of 2022.
Wow.
And they're pushing Morbius back.
Yep, they're pushing.
Can you both say pushing, please? Stop saying what you're saying.
So how many times
Hold on, Tim. I'm sorry. Of all the things that you have said on this podcast, that's the word that got you hooked. Please don't say that word anymore. Of all the things you have talked about and said on this podcast,
it's pushing.
that word is what
that's the one
gives you pause.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Exactly.
Pull up the clips of what you're talking about, please.
The receipts.
So anyways, about pussing.
Oh God.
I mean, the news is ruined at this point. Thanks Corbin.
No, you're welcome. But yeah, Morbius got pushed back because Venom and Carnage took its spot in January, which at this point, like, Morbius was never going to be this box office wonder story anyways. No. So like, why at best? Oh my God.
Oh, Siri. Edwin.
Yeah. At best, it's going to be like that Bloodspot movie with Vin Diesel. Like it'll
be better than that.
Think so?
Oh yes. From a box office standpoint, there's no way it's worse than Bloodspot or whatever.
He didn't say worse. He just said on the same level.
No. Yeah. What did that movie make? That's Green Knight level. That's like 12 million.
What's the name?
Bloodshot. Yeah. Bloodshot movie with Vinny D.
Hang on.
It made less than 10. It made less than 10 million.
Hold on, I need to look to see. I need to find the release date before I reveal these numbers. Hang on.
It was the last. It was the last like big theater movie
before COVID.
Quotes. Yeah, like it was like during COVID, and they're like, "Oh, we're still gonna release it, and we'll see."
It was the one, yeah.
Okay, so it came out March 13th, which is
so it's like right around then when everything shut down, and you weren't allowed to go anywhere.
It made 37.1 million.
Holy cow.
Worldwide.
It tripled Green Knight.
How about
That's disgusting.
How about that? Well, we can't say that. We haven't seen Green Knight yet. I mean, maybe
I can guarantee you that Green Knight is better.
I've seen
than
nothing
Bloodshot.
But good things about Green Knight. So
you don't remember all the great things being talked about with Bloodshot and how it's like the newest 1.5 franchise
it's
IP.
Vin Diesel's reviving.
It's the second greatest thing Vin Diesel's ever done since the Chronicles of Riddick.
So it doubled a little more than it, like 2.5 times.
Yeah, it's bad, very very bad.
Dang.
So yeah, you kind of teased this a minute ago, but there was news today that said Eternals might be pushed back if Shang-Chi does not perform in the box office. And we talked about this last week in our podcast. It was controversial. People didn't like the way that it was branded, but I think we were all a fan of Disney's experiment that they're performing with Free Guy and with Shang-Chi, essentially saying, hey, it's going to be exclusively in theaters for 45 days. On day 46, We're going to open it up for video on demand as well. And I mean, they're taking this experiment seriously, so seriously that they're saying, hey, if it doesn't do well in the box office, that 45-day run, we might not get Eternals this year.
Yeah.
Which is crazy to me, because I was pretty confident that we were going to get all three of the big releases this year from Marvel. And now it's looking dicey. It's looking dicey at best. So we said this last week, but man, if you are a fan of Marvel and you feel comfortable going out to a theater, you need to go and support Shang-Chi when it comes out in 2 weeks. It is a requirement as a fan. If you are comfortable from a health standpoint, you need to show up and go see that movie.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what is deemed successful.
Well, I was going to say,
because Free Guy has been deemed successful in comparison to the COVID landscape. So are they holding Shang-Chi to the COVID landscape, or are they still expecting like a true Marvel box office run, and that's going to dictate what its success is?
Yeah, because the wording is if it underperforms. So what does that mean? I mean, let's be honest, it's probably not going to hit pre-COVID Marvel numbers. But like you said, Free Guy has been deemed a success, and it's sitting at 113 million right now. So, yeah. I mean, if Shang-Chi brings in even that amount, it'll probably be deemed underperforming.
You know, what's tough, I don't know what the budget is for Free Guy. I just tried to look it up on IMDb. I didn't see it really quickly. I have to imagine there's a huge gap in the budget.
I think we looked it up last week. Let me find it again.
I know there's a ton of special effects in it, but I still have to imagine there's a huge gap in the budget between the two films.
100 to 125 million.
So it's going to at least break even in the box office at this point.
Yep.
So maybe that's what success is.
Maybe that's a
to
success.
Them.
Yeah.
It's, hey, we break even, and then we have a film that, maybe we make a little bit of money on the back end. Maybe that's all they need right now. I sent you guys this information a couple of days ago, which was shocking to me. But talking about Marvel's experiments, there was a report that said Black Widow is now on track to hit 500 million without the China release. So this movie looked like it was dead on arrival. It did not look like it was going to perform well. And the number that I pulled up the other day said it had grossed 367 million at the worldwide box office and 125 million in streaming. So
yeah, Box Office Mojo has it at 369 million right now.
I mean, that's got to be a bona fide success. That's got to be the biggest movie we've had in almost 2 years at this point. I can't remember what the big movie was before COVID really blew up, but this has to be in the running for biggest movie we've had in a couple years at this point.
Yeah. Yeah. And like you said, that's without China. That 369 million is without China and without streaming money. And this was released simultaneously. So I don't know. Maybe Shang-Chi will surprise us all and smash it.
Now, I will say, if Eternals get pushed back, that probably means, what's going to get pushed back.
Mm-hmm. Let's not dwell on that right now.
Which is very sad.
Let's not dwell on that. And let's be honest. Let's be even more honest. Free Guy brought in 113 million.
I can't believe it.
I can't either. And people keep talking about how great it is. And I don't want to diss on it. I don't want to diss on you if you like it. It just doesn't look like it's something that I want to spend money on. Mm-hmm. It looks very I think that people sometimes forget, because of the rampant success of Deadpool and how that kind of revitalized Ryan Reynolds' career. And as far as people just wanting to see him in anything, whether it's commercial or whatever. But before Deadpool, most of Ryan Reynolds' filmography were more duds than anything. He was a charming, sarcastic asshole and everything he played. He was one of those guys who were always yeah, he's kind of funny, but he's kind of a douche. You know what I mean? He never really elevated most of the things that he was in. And then Deadpool came out and you're wow, yeah, he definitely is perfect for the role. Deadpool is great. Deadpool to him is what Iron Man has been for RDJ, where they've like become synonymous, almost like in personality.
Mm-hmm.
But just because he has a new movie coming out doesn't mean that like, I want to go see that, because most of his movies outside of Deadpool are just like, bleh. And this looked like a Ryan Reynolds movie to me, where I was like, it's kind of bleh.
Yeah. Like we said last week, it looks like a throwaway movie, like something you go see if you're super bored and there's nothing else out there. And I mean, maybe that's why it's doing well. It's because there's really nothing else to watch right now.
Yeah.
Very true.
I mean, truly, there's nothing. I mean, there's Jungle Cruise and this, and that's it right now.
I'd rather watch Jungle. I haven't watched it, but I'd rather watch Jungle Cruise than Free Guy, if I'm being real.
Absolutely. And you should. Jungle Cruise is definitely worth your time. If you are marginally interested, it's worth watching. Oh, you didn't like it?
It's not worth $30. Wait till it's free.
Well, I said that before. I'm like, if you're marginally interested and you want to support film right now, that's an okay one to support. If you're like on the fence, you're not going to miss anything by waiting. It's not like Shang-Chi, where I'm saying you need to go see this movie right now.
Right. Yeah, but
it's fine.
I'm going one step further. Even if you want to support digital release, just wait.
Just wait.
It's a little harsh. Also, can we just talk about how Free Guy kind of just seems like the live action Lego movie? Like to a T, like
think about that, but
say the character archetype, to like the type of narrative it is. Like it's just a live action Lego movie, dude.
Yeah.
So I mean, maybe it is great.
Yeah, because Lego movie was awesome.
Lego movie is phenomenal.
For those looking for something to watch while we're talking about Jungle Cruise, Cruella drops for free on Friday on Disney Plus, and that is one you definitely should watch. That was a absolute surprise in my eyes. I went into it thinking, this will be okay. It's going to probably mostly be for my kids, my girls. And I walked out with more respect than I could have imagined. Awesome performance from multiple people in it. Watch it this Friday when it comes out. If you're bored, doesn't matter if you like 101 Dalmatians, you will enjoy Cruella.
I do want to see it, and I am looking forward to its free drop. And I know we talked about in our last episode what this episode would be. Obviously, the Spider-Man trailer has shifted topics, but we are going to be reviewing A Quiet Place 2, and if you haven't watched it yet, it is just sitting there on Paramount Plus, just waiting to be watched by you.
For free.
Well,
for
as
free.
long as you're a subscriber, but
basically for free. Let's be real. We all subscribe for SpongeBob.
Totally.
It's true.
Quiet Place 2
and
is
the
just
Paw
a cherry
Patrol
on
movie.
While we're on the periphery of this trailer and just talk about general things and just generalities, do we think the heart on August 23rd in WandaVision was an Easter egg for Spider-Man, legitimately?
I don't know. It's hard. I don't know.
It's hard for me to say that's just a coincidence.
They very purposefully held on to the trailer. And Kevin Feige, every time when he was asked about it, was like, have we not done enough? Have we not given enough? It's coming.
It would be too big of a coincidence for that to be the day they circled on the calendar. For anybody who isn't connecting the dots right now, one of the first Vision episodes of WandaVision, Vision's having his boss over for dinner. They look at the calendar. August 23rd? Yeah, yesterday. Yep. August 23rd had a big circle around it, and they were trying to figure out what is August 23rd. And August 23rd is when we got the Spider-Man trailer. So, it just seems like too big of a coincidence for it not to be in their plan.
I know. But also, since we're not talking about the trailer just yet, for the first time ever, the earliest it's ever been done, Starbucks released the pumpkin spice latte. And let me tell you, it's so good. The syrup that it's a sauce that they use, not a syrup. The sauce they use always has like different variables that change. Some years it's better than others. This is definitely one of the better years.
It's very good.
And for those of you who just think maybe I'm just like a Starbucks snob, I worked there for over 5 years. I understand the sauces. I'm not just some like crazy person who's like, this tastes different than last year.
For anyone who thinks I'm a Starbucks snob, I am, is what you just said.
I am definitely a Starbucks snob.
No, I was saying that I have insider knowledge, that it's not just an assumption. So if if you are a Starbucks snob and your friends were calling you crazy, Percy's walking on my TV stand right now. Then
Which makes you sound even more crazy. Cats all over the fucking place.
Then you're not crazy. You were very much sane. So, but it's so good.
It is. I had one this morning as well. I had an iced because it was hot as fuck outside.
Yes, it was. You walk outside and you're sweating. So what is better to drink on a hot, sweaty day? Ice cold milk.
That's right.
With sugar. With sugar. But it was the busiest I have seen a Starbucks. Let me tell you, people are crazy for it. The cafe had 30 plus people. The wait of people going into the cafe firsthand was like at least 30 to 40 minutes because of mobile order and the drive-through line. It was the least COVID safe environment I've been in the past year and a half. And I went to a theme park, Orlando Studios, to be precise, last year.
In the height of the pandemic at that.
Yes, you're right.
Okay, so we're in the peripherals. We're going to talk about this trailer. I put a teaser out there on our Facebook page that I was going to give everybody the best show that they could watch this summer. And I'm just a little bit late to the party on the show. I think this show wrapped up a couple of weeks ago. I sat down and binged Mayor of Easttown over the past 2 days. And if you like crime drama, this is can't miss television. It's on HBO Max. It has Kate Winslet, of all people, as the star, and she knocks the role out of the park. It is incredibly compelling. It's got some true humor in it, and it's one of those shows where you're going to be second guessing yourself every episode. It's focused around the murder of a teenage girl, and you're going to be going back and forth on, is it this person or is it that person? Is it this person? I'm positive it's that person. There are twists up until the very end of the show. I started watching the show because a few people on our Facebook page were saying, hey, if you're going to talk about a show that could sweep the awards this year, it's Mayor of Easttown. And then, as everybody knows, I'm a huge Stephen King fan. He started tweeting about how good Mayor of Easttown is. So if you like crime drama, you've got to check it out. It's on HBO Max. It is probably going to be the best show I watched this year.
Wow.
And you guys know I love Loki. There's been some great shows out. Mayor of Easttown is phenomenal. It is expertly done. Yeah, it's expertly done. The music's really good. I mean, I can't say enough about the show. It's got Guy Pearce in it. He's really good in the show. I can never remember this actor's name. I'm trying to scroll. David Denman. He played Roy in The Office. So it's got a couple of big names that you guys have heard of, and it is absolutely phenomenal. There's not many shows at this stage of my life where I can sit down and watch 7 hours of a show in 2 nights, and Mayor of Easttown is one of those shows. So if you're looking for something to watch, you have HBO Max, check out Mayor of Easttown and thank me later.
Okay.
Whoa. Okay.
I guess I'll begrudgingly watch it. And when I do love it, I'm going to go, yeah, you're wrong.
That's exactly what you'll do. Or even better yet, you're going to you're going to binge it over the next few days. And next week's episode, you're going to say, guys, I've got the can't miss show of the year for you.
Well, Tim, you can never have a W on the show. That's like the unspoken rule of the nerdosphere.
Mm-hmm. I know. Mayor of Easttown is a W, so watch it.
Okay. I'll think about it. And I'll let you know when I'm done because I'm going to. So, nanner.
I just convinced you to watch a show, but you still can't give me the W. So like, I'll think about it. I'll watch it. Nanner.
Yeah, if anything, I won because I got to see this cool new show.
Totally.
You get nothing.
It's my gift to you all.
No, it's not you didn't give it to me. I'm giving it to myself. I'm choosing to watch it.
Well done.
Good job, Corbin.
Thank you.
What was that show that you were wanting to watch, Corbin?
The Mayor of Easttown is this apparently new hit can't miss show. Titan Tim and Stephen King, both specifically Stephen King, talked about how you should watch it.
Who's Titan Tim though?
I don't know. He's a nobody.
Oh.
But we should definitely watch. I think we should watch it.
Oh, okay.
I think my recommendation for you is we should watch Mayor of Easttown.
Okay.
Tim, if you haven't watched it, you should watch it.
Okay, I'll add it to my list.
Okay, good boy.
All right. Well, now that the tangents are over, let's talk about this trailer because holy crap.
Yeah, I even wrote some notes down. There's only 3 bullet points because I just wanted to make sure I talked. I just wanted
I
to
even
make
wrote
sure I
down
talked.
some notes. There's 3 of them.
I just want to make sure I didn't forget about them. I was thinking about them today because I figured that most of it will just be natural. But I was like, these are just weird thoughts that I had, and weird thoughts don't usually stick around very long. They're just in and out. So,
yes.
Indeed.
So, yeah, if you haven't watched the trailer, pause this. It's only 3 minutes. Goodness, go watch it. It's amazing. It's super cool. Picks up basically right where Far From Home left off. Seems like not much time,
like moments,
because
he's
has
handcuffed.
passed. Yep, I imagine because we see some scenes where he's swinging through again when Jonah's like plastered all over Times Square talking about it, and then we see later him land on top of one of the bridges with MJ and the helicopters all around because they're coming after him. So I imagine all that probably happens fairly quick
in like the first couple minutes,
and then he's handcuffed and they're like grilling him about Mysterio and killing Mysterio. Which I guess, spoilers, thanks trailer, he gets out of somehow because he is able to go talk to Stephen Strange about making everybody forget. And that's the main premise of the movie is they try to do this spell to make everybody forget that Peter is Spider-Man, and it breaks the multiverse.
So what really helps the multiverse?
Well, yeah, and we kind of text about this already, and I wanted to talk about this at some point. I don't know if that's right now or not, but we now have basically 3, if you count Wanda becoming Scarlet Witch, events that quote unquote broke the multiverse. So is it a combination of all these things that actually broke the multiverse, or do we just now have 3 things that broke the multiverse? So no matter what content you've consumed, you know there's now a multiverse.
I will say it's frustrating that there are fail safes because, again, we've talked about how even Kevin Feige has sold the Disney Plus shows as being content you need to consume to understand what's happening in the MCU because it's all connected and it's all going to become a cause and effect situation.
Yeah.
But if you've been following us and even on our Tangent podcast, the Marvel Watchers that we used to do, we were very vocal on none of this stuff can't be explained in a 2-minute conversation in any of the movies. None of them actually have consequence. Loki was the first one that felt that way. But yes, you're right, Clay. Now, if you watch Doctor Strange, you don't need to consume Loki to know that there is a multiverse. Now, me personally, I think that the way that the 3 stack on each other is Loki is responsible for not keeping the multiverse in check. I think the way that it all kind of stacks up in the continuity is Kang is like, we're on the precipice, this is about to happen. And that is Doctor Strange breaking the multiverse. And he's like, all right, well, you're killing me and I can't keep this in check. I can't stop this from happening. So now it all branches off. And I think that the kids that Wanda is hearing are multiverse versions of her kids. And that's what's going to get her involved in Doctor Strange's movie specifically.
That's a good point. I didn't think about that. So if you combine the 2 in that way, it does make sense. Yeah. But at the same time, you also don't have to consume all the content to know that there's a multiverse going on, which is still disappointing, unfortunately.
Yeah. So. But something that we didn't talk about on the podcast last week, it is announced that Scarlet Witch is getting her own solo movie, which is pretty big.
That's awesome.
Which is very interesting because it's also not really like Marvel to like be announcing movies outside of their hype train events.
Yeah.
So I thought that was kind of unusual. And I felt like that really kind of fell through the cracks. Like it was only talked about on the internet for like a few days. Everyone was like, new trailers for new shit. But like, that's really big. So
that's huge.
I will say this. I feel like at this point we had to have been wrong on the original release slate, because we had talked about on previous podcasts on how before COVID intervened and all the pushbacks happened, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness was originally supposed to come out before Spider-Man. Yes. And I feel like if that was true, either that movie was going to be vastly different because we do know that script got a complete bookend overhaul after Scott Derrickson left and Sam Raimi came on and they switched script writers, or it just was gonna not necessarily feel like a hot mess, but it isn't as related to this Spider-Man event as we would like it to be.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think it's probably more of the script issue than anything else, like the director leaving and Sam Raimi coming on and having to revamp, because all that was happening at the same time as COVID.
Yeah.
So it getting pushed back, it probably would have gotten pushed back anyway because of the behind the scenes drama. So I think that's probably more of a reason. But you're right. What would Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness look like before Sam Raimi and released before Spider-Man? I don't know.
Yeah. And then another tangent to that,
because Spider-Man was done.
That's another tangent to that, is it's possible they realized we are shutting down because of COVID. Spider-Man's going to come out before us. We need to rewrite because the order is not going to make sense. So, there could be some of the script drama could have been them saying, okay, if Spider-Man comes out first, what we were planning on doing, it's not going to make sense. So we need to reevaluate the Strange movie because Spider-Man's going to beat us to market.
Yeah. And it honestly could have been one of those things where, when it comes to the release window of Spider-Man, Sony chooses that. You know what I mean? So we could argue like, there's no way Kevin Feige would let no. I mean, at the end of the day, the buck stops with Sony. So maybe Sony was like, no, we're releasing this movie no matter what.
At which case Feige would be like, okay, well, we need to change our plan for Doctor Strange then, because it's not going to make sense for this movie to come out after Spider-Man.
And maybe that was some of the creative differences. Like, I know at the end of the day, Scott Derrickson's big thing that he said he left over was he wanted in the Multiverse of Madness to be like a true horror film, for like a Marvel horror movie.
Yeah.
And so maybe that was some of the creative differences where it's something like Ant-Man, where it's like, hey, I know we had this plan, but we need to readjust. And the person who was at the genesis of the idea was like, I don't want to readjust. I wanted to make my movie. So they left.
Yeah.
So I will say this, though, between Spider-Man and Doctor Strange, the Multiverse of Madness, Doctor Strange is officially in the MCU version of Sliders. That's exactly what this movie is going to be, and it's what his movie is going to be. He's just in the MCU version of Sliders.
Sliders was the shit, bro.
Matt Damon, right? No, it's Matthew McDowell, I think is what his name is. I think it's some McDowell or McDonough. He's a handsome man.
Jerry O'Connell.
That's what I'm looking for.
However, John Rhys Davies, who most people know, Gimli, he was in it.
That's what I knew him from as a kid. When we were watching Lord of the Rings, I was like, that's that man from Sliders.
So, but yeah, Jerry O'Connell.
Yeah. So that was one of my notes.
So off on the name. That's why we have the internet. It's okay.
Yeah, that's why you've got your swift fingers.
So back to Spider-Man. We got a glimpse of his new suit. It'll be interesting to see how that ties in, because we also got glimpses of him still in the iron.
It's his Sliders device. His suit. I'm telling you, it's infused with magic. What other magic would there be besides traversing each multiverse? It's Spider-Man's slider suit. It's the slider suit.
It's the slider suit.
The Spidey slider suit.
The point is, we got a new look of his new suit. It's black and gold. It looks dope. But again, we got glimpses of him taking a step back as far as suits go, wearing his Endgame Iron Man spider suit, which was strange. It'll be interesting to see why he would need to pull that out. But then most importantly, we get a goblin bomb rolling on the street with Willem Dafoe's laughter in the background. And we know that he is back already. So it was cool to get that official confirmation. And then we got Dr. Octopus making a full camera reveal saying, "Hello, Peter."
Which he looks better there than he did when he was in Spider-Man 2.
Yep, and
they trimmed him up.
They de-aged him, and seems they slimmed him up as well.
Yeah. But while you're on that specific scene, Clayton, this was one of my notes. I don't think that this is an original. I don't think this interpretation is original to me, but there is enough cinematic evidence to show that when Doc Ock is saying, "Hey, Peter," he's not talking exclusively to Tom Holland. And it might even not be Tom Holland at all. I think that the odds are that Tom is on that bridge with other Spider-Men, because like if you look at, I was really paying attention to the grooves of the highway, and the grooves of the highway that Tom is on matches all the scenes with Doc Ock's arms and the Goblin bomb. But for him to say, "Hey, Peter," and that transition of him being far away, it's just in cinematography language. That's not how you transition to a hero pose. It would be more of a up close scene. So I almost think that's probably going to go. He says, "Hello, Peter," and he's talking to Toby Spider-Man, and then also shows Andrew and Tom reacting to it.
Yes, I thought it was a weird edit, and then I saw a bunch of people on TikTok bring that point up as well. So people are definitely talking about the fact that this seems to be an intentional like
marketing ploy.
Yes, that's what I'm looking for.
Which we've seen Marvel do this before, specifically with Infinity War. We had obviously Hulk running with the Avengers in the woods, smashing out of the Hulkbuster suit. We had Thanos only having 2 of the stones, when in actuality he had all 5 and he was gunning for the 6.
Yep.
So Marvel has gone to great lengths. Even in the Civil War trailers, Spider-Man wasn't in the airport fight scene in the trailers, but he obviously was in the airport fight scene in the movie.
Yep.
So Marvel has not shied away with using their technical prowess to specifically sow a false narrative and get you off the scent of what's happening. And I would dare say, despite all the toys and shit coming out, we probably won't actually. I would almost think we don't actually see a trailer that shows off the other Spider people. It might be a theatrical like shock.
I think we're gonna go in still with a little sliver of doubt in our minds that they're not gonna be in it, because we've yet to see them when we go see it in theaters. So,
and I don't think, because the guy who plays Doc Ock, he kind of let the cat out of the bag months ago, right? Like he'd said like, "Oh yeah, I'm in that movie," and everybody freaked out, and you kind of saw him like just kind of disappear into the ether after he said that. We haven't had anything from.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Feige put a hit out on him. Has anybody talked to him in a while?
Is he okay? Is he alive? Is he alive and well?
He's actually not in the movie. It's all digital at this point.
Right. Yeah.
And we also have confirmation that Toby's in it from an interview. The gentleman who stars alongside Larry David in Curb Your Enthusiasm, but is also one of the teachers for Peter, was asked yesterday.
That's what I was.
Yep. What Spider-Man are you most excited to see share the screen with Tom Holland? He immediately said, "Oh, I'm so excited to see Toby up there."
Yeah, I saw a TikTok with that clip, and the dude says, "Save this man. He's gonna be after him."
He did.
So yeah, I mean, we're definitely seeing Toby.
We're at least getting Toby.
At least, yeah. And that's another thing that I wanted to ask you guys. Like, we might not get Andrew. It might just be Toby.
We got Jamie Foxx's Electro. Come on.
Yeah.
You think we're gonna get Andrew's villains from the multiverse and not Andrew? I really find it hard to believe.
It would be insane.
I will say this, though. As far as cultivating the Sinister Six, this probably is the best way to do it quickly, and you don't feel like you're getting shorted on like learning about these villains in a new way. You know what I mean? Like, we have emotional attachments one way or another to all these villains already, so we don't need to tread their backstory. And I don't know. So like, there is one scene in the trailer that I didn't notice. I saw on TikTok, but if you slow it down, it looks like it could either be Venom or the Lizard, but there is some sort of like behemoth creature that looks like he's going after Peter, and then is stopped by what looks like a force field made by Doctor Strange, and Peter like is freaked out by it. And so that has a lot of people speculating that basically what Doctor Strange is trying to do is he's trying to capture, like in Ghostbusters, like all the runaway ghosts. He's trying to collect all of these variants. He's like, I don't know what to do with you, but I gotta capture you and put you somewhere. And like that could be very easily explained of how the Sinister Six is created. Like, hey, we're all here and we hate Spider-Man. John Watts, the director of Spider-Man, when Alfred Molina said, hey, how am I still alive? I thought I died at the end of Spider-Man 2. John Watts told him, you're the same Doc Ock from your universe, just no one dies. And so that's made people think that maybe this branching moment is all these villains right before they died. So their epitome of hatred for Spider-Man is at its highest.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how they are like, let's fucking kill this kid.
Of course, I love that thought process, but for Doc Ock in particular, that doesn't fly completely, because right at the very end, in his moment of death, he goes back to his normal self and he saves New York by sacrificing himself.
Because the chip was destroyed. So, I mean, he could have been snagged before the chip. But I don't understand what you're saying.
Mm-hmm. So, and speaking of slowing down things and speculating who else is in this movie, Corbin, you were the one who sent this to me, and chat's already talking about it. Normally we don't acknowledge chat while we're recording the live podcast, but
too good not to.
Do we think Matthew Murdock is in this movie as previously rumored?
I do, because
remember, sorry to interrupt you because I would have let you go on your tangent. Not only has it been previously rumored, but when they were doing Spider-Man reshoots, Charlie Cox canceled appearances
at cons
because he had business to attend to, and it just so happened to be around the same time. Well, not around the same time. It happened to be during reshoots for No Way Home. So yeah, I've watched the trailer an uncountable amount of times. At Twitter was at 10 million. It's now at 12 million because of me. And at that scene, the man that's walking in a button down is not dressed like any other person in the police department. And he goes in, and the police officer is dressed in very specific police or maybe FBI garb. And he's basically like telling Peter, no, like, you own the drones. And then a man in the same white button down that they purposely don't show their face on slams his hands on the desk, and Peter looks like almost surprised. But it's not like I'm intimidated by you. It very much is like, oh, like he doesn't seem threatened. And I really in my gut think that is Matthew Murdock, who is his appointed lawyer, and he probably volunteered for the case, especially being, we know that if Matthew Murdock appears in the MCU, it will be a soft reboot of the character. But something that we've talked about in the past, Clayton and I, is how the MCU has never appropriately done secret identities. Everyone's always been known to the public. And Peter Parker's biggest thing is his secret identity, because he wants to protect his friends and family. This is the first time we're really kind of experiencing the ramifications of someone knowing who Peter Parker and Spider-Man are one and the same. Mm-hmm. The only other character ever, and the absorbed MCU material we've seen so far that cares about a secret identity, is Matthew Murdock. So there is no reason to not logically think that Matthew Murdock, if he exists in the MCU, is like, I am going to be this kid's lawyer and I'm going to get him off. And that's happened in the comics before. And Matthew Murdock and Peter have had relationships in the past where New York thinks that Daredevil is Matt Murdock. And so Matt Murdock represents Daredevil, and Peter Parker wears the Daredevil suit in court so that they can help differentiate that they're not the same people. But this exact scenario of Peter being on trial and shit, like, Matthew Murdock is the one who was his lawyer. So it'd be a great way to kind of tip the hat. It doesn't need to be long. I don't think that we're going to see like this huge story arc, but I do think that we're probably going to see Matthew Murdock's introduction into the MCU. And that's all we need, man. That's all we need.
Mm-hmm.
We
just an acknowledgement
for 2 to 5 minutes on screen. He exists in the MCU. Charlie Cox is Matthew Murdock, and now the future is wide open for us to get him back.
Yep.
Because we know that Kevin Feige has said you will be surprised to see who appears in the She-Hulk movie, because it's going to be a courtroom comedy
show.
And I just think that I just feel like we're gonna kind of get Matthew Murdock introduced in the MCU in Spider-Man No Way Home. we're going to see him as a supporting character or maybe just a few appearances in the She-Hulk show. And then this is launching pad to finally having whatever they want to do with Daredevil at that point.
Yep.
So
that would be phenomenal.
Indeed it would.
And hopefully we're not Mephistoing ourselves. Like, I've seen so many reaching theories already, and it's just like, can we just stop? And I really don't want us thinking that this man is Matthew Murdock to be one of those Mephisto moments, but we'll see.
It's hard to say. Now, I will say a Mephisto moment is there's a very quick scene where we see Electro fighting Spider-Man. Spider-Man is in his black suit. And first of all, it's comic accurate Electro, at least as far as electricity goes. It's like bright yellow instead of like the blue stuff from TASM 2, which probably pulls from the Ultimates. I think he was blue in the Ultimates. But
he was.
There is so much destruction happening. There's a huge gust of sand. And so people think that's the Sandman and that he might even be trying to protect Peter because he ended Spider-Man 3 on more of a heroic note. I think that's just debris, personally.
Yeah, I've seen quite a few people, say that we're building towards the Sinister Six because I haven't seen this, so let me know if I have missed out on this, but the dude has been recast as Sandman. Dude has been confirmed cast as Lizard. And then we've got Jamie Foxx, William Dafoe, and what's his name as Doc Ock. And that's 5 of 6. So
also at CinemaCon, when Sony was doing their press conference, they specifically changed their acronym for their Spider-Man universe to finally just be Sony's Spider-Man universe. So SSU. Before it was Sony Pictures Marvel Universe character, something stupid. It was SSPUMC or something stupid like that.
Why does the MCU has ruined some things, and that's one of them. Everything feels like it needs to have a name and an acronym. Every universe. Because of the MCU.
Yeah, I mean we forgot Vulture too. I mean Vulture's already in the MCU. We know
True,
he's in
he is
prison
still
right
alive.
now. So he's out there.
And then, Scorpion, the guy who becomes Scorpion in the comics, is
Gargan
in this current Spider-Man universe.
And didn't they announce, because I'm trying to remember the Sinister Six, I'm trying to pull it up. Wasn't Kraven in the original Sinister Six, Kraven the Hunter?
In the very original Sinister Six?
I think he was, and didn't they announce that Aaron Taylor Johnson was going to be playing Kraven the Hunter not that long ago?
They did announce that he was playing Kraven, but I don't think he was in the OG Sinister. I think the OG Sinister Six has Chameleon, Mysterio, Doc Ock.
Here it is. The original group was organized by Doc Ock. It included Vulture, Electro, Mysterio, Sandman, and Kraven.
Yep.
Okay.
I'm looking at that as well.
Yep. So, we know Kraven's coming.
I don't think that we'll see him in this, though.
No. Oh, I don't think you're going to see him in this either. We know Vulture's in prison right now. So yeah, we could see the Sinister Six soon. That is a good question. Do you guys think we see more of Green Goblin or any of the other villains we know they've brought back? Alfred Molina's Ock. Do you think we see more of them beyond this movie, or do you think this is their one and done moment, and then anything else we see is going to be a different branch?
I feel like what's his name? Alfred Molina?
Molina.
Yeah, Alfred Molina. I feel like this is a one and done moment for him, at least. William Dafoe, who knows? That dude does so much. He could come back more, probably. So who knows? But I really think that we're not going to see Alfred Molina again.
Yeah, I don't really know, to be honest. I think it depends on how big of a role he has. Obviously, I feel like his presence in this film is going to feel large, and based on the way that Alfred Molina talked about filming, it didn't seem like it took much of his time. So I think if they're able to, using technology, get him in the movie where he's not requires a lot of effort, you might be able to get an actor like him.
Maybe. Yeah.
But also, what is he got going on? You know what I mean?
Well, nothing. And that's kind of why I say he may not come back, because it doesn't seem like he's really doing much nowadays. It just seems like he's
Well, outside of him kind of fucking up the surprise, it makes me feel like if we're going to get more Doc Ock, it's going to be a passing of the mantle as opposed to Alfred Molina's Doc Ock surviving.
Maybe.
You know what I mean? Like, I just can't imagine him going out with what he did so early on and essentially saying, "Oh yeah, I'm in the new Spider-Man movie," and confirming a bunch of the rumors. It makes it feel like, man, he's not going to be in another movie.
Yeah.
Now, let me ask you this very scary question, you two. Now, Peter approaching Doctor Strange, asking him to erase his identity and everything, has a lot of source material to be drawn of from Brand New Day, which is a horrific Spider-Man storyline that I literally cried. I very rarely cry when I read comics. This was the one time where I just sobbed because Spider-Man as we knew it had changed forever.
Well, what sucked about that in particular, for those who aren't familiar with the comics, we had just gotten off of like the other story arc where it really just dove deep into Peter and his powers and relationship to his powers, and he kind of went through this metamorphosis where he learned more about himself as far as what he could do.
We're also coming off of like
where Aunt May had died, and he like almost goes and kills the Kingpin because the Kingpin is the one who put out the hit on him. Like, and these are all ramifications from him finally revealing himself to the world to help Tony Stark during Civil War, and immediately regretting it right after because Tony Stark's a fucking asshole, and
whose League of Villains he hired nearly killed Peter.
Yeah. So, like, we go through all of this amazing Spider-Man development and storytelling to erase it all in Brand New Day. Everyone forgets who Peter Parker is, and it goes back to, like, square one Spider-Man. And that's the moment where, like, his new powers are kind of forgotten about. We go back to just, you know, Freak of the Week storytelling. A lot of the big stuff that happens just isn't really talked about. Ugh.
The creators at the time that took over right at that story arc believed that the best stories Peter had to tell were when he was single and struggling, which is so not true. And it's so frustrating, especially because that whole era that Clayton's talking about, him joining the New Avengers and leading up to Civil War and stuff, was so big for Spider-Man because he was so anti-teams. He would sometimes help out the Fantastic Four, and he later would when Johnny Storm died and he joined them on their Future Foundation team, which is just like an emotional thing. But Peter always worried about his baggage because, let's be honest, he's the Batman of the Marvel universe. He has the biggest and most impactful rogues gallery, and he didn't want to bring his shit onto anyone. And so he always avoided teams. So yeah, we had this huge long thing and then gone. And the reasoning, we know the reasoning creatively was because they wanted to make him single again. But the reason they used in the comics was, I want to save Aunt May from dying. And so I need to give up my love of Mary Jane to save her, which is like, Aunt May has been like 89 years old for the past 30, 40 plus years. Like, let her die, bro. So dumb. But anyways,
it's like, what's her face finally giving birth in Family Guy?
Yes.
After being pregnant for 10 years. Oh, God.
But so to get back to, you know, this definitely is taking source material from the Brand New Day as far as him approaching Doctor Strange. We also know that the Venom directors have been talking about how they are building up behind the scenes to an altercation to where Venom will finally fight Spider-Man. And Sony has also said that they are working on a way to make their Spider-Man universe connected to the MCU in some capacity. This is my question to you all. While Kevin Feige, I think to a certain extent, will always want to play ball, I do not think that he wants anything outside of his producing control to impact or make waves or do anything to the MCU, which is also proven with like things like Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. and stuff. Like, no, if he didn't produce it, it's not canon. Are we maybe seeing the MCU version of Brand New Day, and the way that it's being adapted is Spider-Man's going to get restarted in a Sony universe, and he will be forgotten by the MCU characters because he doesn't exist when it's all said and done?
I mean, the So here's my immediate thought. The spell is to make people forget that Peter Parker is Spider-Man, not for people to forget about Spider-Man. And then my second thought during you saying Sony wanting to connect their Sony universe to the MCU via Tom Holland's Spider-Man, nothing that they do will impact the MCU outside of what they do in a Spider-Man movie with, if they continue to team with Kevin Feige. If in a Venom movie he fights Spider-Man, that experience for Spider-Man happens to Spider-Man, but it doesn't necessarily need or will affect anything else in the MCU. It would just be like a side story. So for instance, I'm reading Amazing Spider-Man. Now I'm going to read Wolverine. Oh, Spider-Man's in this Wolverine comic and like adventures with him for 5 issues, but they never mention it in the main Spider-Man comic. That's how I would view that.
Okay. Just thought it was an interesting query. The Spider-Man thing is, I think they could do one more solo movie and he gets 2 ensemble, and then the deal needs to be re-upped. So
they'll re-up it. And let's be honest, the mouse, I have a feeling that we're at a point now where the mouse will buy Sony to keep Spider-Man. Like, that's where we're at. Like, somebody shared that meme, and I've been one of you guys in the group.
It's me.
Where they're like, how'd you get Spider-Man? Well, I bought Sony.
Well, I mean,
and that's something that almost happened already. So
Disney's been so dodgy, though, of like this Sony altercation that Spider-Man gets his own what if story. He's not voiced by Tom Holland, and he specifically looks like the Disney World Avengers Campus suit. It's not a suit from the films. So I don't know. I feel like they just are trying to not play ball as Sony as often as possible.
I mean, that may be true, but that doesn't mean that when push comes to shove, they're not going to re-up using him in the MCU. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like to be able to use him without Sony interference as much as possible, I think is probably a good thing, because we've all been pretty vocal. Sony kind of sucks at making Spider-Man movies and movies in general.
Yeah. I mean, you might get to a point where Carnage ends up being a flop and Morbius ends up being a flop. And that might change the equation. The leverage is gone at that point. If you're 2 main guys you're looking at right now saying like, yeah, that's what's going to keep us alive. If they don't do well through the pandemic, price might come down. They might be more willing to talk to
I don't think
ever before.
I don't think Morbius is going to do anything, man.
They've got Silver Sable in production.
Yeah.
This Craven movie, I just don't.
Nope, I know.
Oh, come on! Like,
they're just desperate.
This is Avi Arad speaking. He's jizzing in his office all over his Venom poster, and he's just saying Spider-Man is just so ripe with content. They can all be their own thing, but they can't, because their linchpin is Spider-Man.
And they're bad guys. Cool. Everybody's trying to do stuff with is bad guys.
And I'm pretty sure we were talking last week about Hotel Transylvania's 4th movie already being sold. They're not even going to try to put it in theaters. They're going to go straight to Amazon Prime. Mm-hmm. I'm pretty sure that's a Sony property. So like you just start looking at it, it's like Sony's waving the white flag on Hotel Transylvania.
Entertainment is Sony
butt.
Pictures. They suck. And we said it before on several podcasts, if it wasn't for the PlayStation branch of Sony, Sony would have gone under. And this is legit. This is not just fanboying about PlayStation. PlayStation held up the company as a whole. They were entertaining selling Sony Pictures because it was so bad at making money. They lost so much money. But then they made the deal with Marvel for Spider-Man and made a fuck ton of money.
Yeah.
So
I don't know, man. I'm hyped for this movie. I will always be nervous of this relationship between the two.
Yep.
But
Have you read ain't jizzing on this movie?
Hell no, dude.
Kevin Feige jizzing on this movie.
I got that Feige sauce.
Real quick before we get out of here, because we're about to run real long. I saw today, so this is something that I actually didn't know, but Ned, his comic version of himself, was Hobgoblin.
What? Hobgoblin was the
listen. There was an arc in the comics where Ned was Hobgoblin, and it turned out the real Hobgoblin was brainwashing and using Ned as the Hobgoblin to cause problems for Spider-Man. The actor who plays Ned in the Tom Holland movies lost like 100 pounds. Dude looks phenomenal. And he said that he lost it for this role. But when you see him in the trailer, he's still a little chubby. So there are some speculation going around that maybe we see Hobgoblin in this movie and it's Ned. Something happens. Corbin's researching.
Damn, because he's not the original Hobgoblin.
No, and if you would listen to what I said.
Literally just walked you through.
I know, but I'm looking it up because like Ned in the comics is also like so minor of a character.
He was. Crickets.
I mean, he's so minor, his Wikipedia page is like a paragraph. So yeah, I guess he wore the suit for a moment, but I wouldn't be happy with that. Because here's my thing.
Yeah, he did it for
but here's the thing. Here's why people are speculating against that, though, because it's the same character, and because he lost so much weight and got into shape, and he said it was for this movie, even though we've seen him in the trailer, and he's still chubs.
It frustrates me because the Hobgoblin, first of all, the Green Goblin is one of my favorite villains ever. The Hobgoblin is cooler. The reason behind that is because he takes the Goblin formula and fixes it so he doesn't go insane. So he literally is just evil for the sake of being evil. And that is dope. And I feel like the Green Goblin still hasn't gotten his fair due on film. Mm-hmm. And we've reached that point where it's almost like you can't do him anymore because it's like burnout, which I think this is a creative way of with Willem Dafoe coming back. But if they skip straight to Ned Leeds, I don't think it's not the same. And I know it's just me being probably just a fanboy purist being butthurt. But if that is the case, I won't be like, whoa, that's so cool. I'll be like, oh, okay.
Here's where there could be some legitimacy. We don't have a Norman Osborn for Tom Holland, and we don't have a best friend Harry Osborn for Tom Holland. So if you were to do a Green Goblin type dynamic,
yeah,
it would be logical in the MCU to use Ned.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's the right move, because I don't know what the right move is with that.
Yeah.
But it would be logical. I could see the logic behind it.
Yeah. Okay. For me, it's The Dark Knight Rises. Like, I love your name, Robin. When it should have been Dick. So like that's what it feels like to me. Where it's
literally could have just been named Dick Grayson, but no.
Named him Robin.
His name's literally Robin.
But I get what you're saying. And I don't think if that happens to be true, I don't think that will be like a no, and I'll be like pissed about it.
We have a patron who is due a guest spot host who I always thought would choose Dark Knight Rises as his topic and come on here and talk to us about it, but he has yet to do so. There's a lot that Corbin and I could say about The Dark Knight Rises.
Yeah. Plus, like, how unforgettable of a line would this be? And it would be on shirts everywhere. I love your name. I wish you hadn't changed it. I love Dick. I mean, come on. You went with fucking Robin?
I love Dick. Oh, man. That caught me off guard, Corbin. That was funny.
Thank you.
All right.
That can be funny sometimes.
Well, I think it's safe to say that we're all hyped, although Tim originally said he was underwhelmed and he didn't bring that up at all in this hour-long podcast, so he lost his chance.
I changed my mind. I was underwhelmed because of how much anticipation I had for this trailer, given that we've been talking about it for fucking months at this point. And that's why I followed up. I'm like, to be fair, I don't know what would have had me beyond hype, because I'd raised it beyond where it reasonably could be.
So what Tim is basically
fair.
saying is that this trailer for him is like every man's experience with sex, where you anticipate it for like years of your life and you finally get it. You don't really know what you're doing. You've never had before. So you come before you even get in there and you're like, that wasn't that great. But then the second time you watch it, you're like, oh, okay. I see what's going on in here. This is pretty great. It's pretty cool. There's some like interesting characters over here. And what's that thing over there? Oh, okay. So
Leave it to Corbin to dirty it up. I was just going to say, so Tim was expecting, I shared a meme of...
yes, it was the meme.
The movie poster. It showed like John Wick and fucking Transformers and
Vader in the corner.
Yeah, Darth Vader, fucking all these people. This is what our expectations are right now. So, yeah. Anyways. All right, guys. So we are hyped about Spider-Man. Be expecting us to talk about more MCU. It's almost like we should have done a Marvel podcast.
fuck you guys so much.
Oh, man. We hate being constrained. We hate having... We want to choose to talk about this stuff. You know what I mean? So... that does it for this week's The Nerdosphere. Remember, if you love what we do and you're on an Apple device, scroll down and give us a review. 5 stars would be swell. Leave us a kind word or two if you wouldn't mind. If you're not on an Apple device, that's okay. You can help us by sharing our podcast with friends and family. Remember, what makes content better? Sharing with those we love. If you really love what we do, visit us at patreon.com/the Nerdosphere, where you can join the Nerdosphere family and get sweet exclusive perks like our Nerd Tea, which Tim teased earlier, as well as ad-free versions of our podcast and much more. But for now, that does it. And we'll see you in the next one, baby.
Swip.
Or as Abby Rad would say, sploosh.
Okay.